I want to share with you a letter that I found. Now, I've mentioned in the past, we know that Mark Twain, he wrote a marvelous letter about the Jews, and so did Leo Tolstoy and Pascal, and there have been, we don't appreciate who we are. Do you appreciate who you are? You have to appreciate who you are. Sometimes we get so caught up in our, in our politics and our, small-mindedness, and we forget. There's a French imam. You hear? As a French, everybody saw it. There's a French imam, Hassan Khalgoumi from Drancy near Paris. He said, I, a son of Yishmael, an imam, a Muslim, a man of peace, hereby present my sincere testimony about this extraordinary people. I must admit, I believe in religions and miracles, but there's something about this people, the people of Israel, that feels like a living miracle. A people the pharaohs tried to erase 3,000 years ago and failed. A people the Babylonians tried to annihilate 2,500 years ago and failed. A people the Romans tried to wipe out 2,000 years ago and failed. A people the Nazis tried to exterminate 80 years ago and failed to erase. A people the Arabs fought in 5 wars to wipe off the map and failed. This is a small nation in number, but with unique strength, a divine blessing. Wherever it lays its hands, it succeeds. Finance, commerce, science, philosophy, literature. A desert land turned into a paradise without oil or gas, but with liberty, democracy, intelligence, and determination. This is a people who gave the world Einstein, Newton. Well, Newton wasn't Jewish. Gave world Einstein, Kafka, Karl Marx, Spinoza, Freud, and many others who left a mark on humanity. There are realities that neither reason nor logic can explain. There's only one word for it, miracle. For 2.5 years now, this people has been fighting on 5 fronts. They said it was tired, that it was about to collapse. And yet it surprised the world by opening a new front against Iranian people, the Iranian enemy, one that frightens even the Arab regimes. This people, though small in number, possesses the courage of nobles, the wisdom of prophets, the patience of the righteous, and determination of the survivors. How could it be otherwise when it is known that they are descendants of Abraham, Solomon, David, Moses, Jacob, Joseph, and 1,523 prophets and emissaries from their lineage? I don't know where he got that number from, but this is a people who brought monotheism and faith in one God to the world, a people driven by a thirst for life, for work, for innovation, for continuity, a drive that has lasted for more than 4,000 years. Truly, I find no other word to describe them but a nation of miracles. If the Arabs had clear vision, they would choose to unite with this people, to learn from them, to cooperate with them, and perhaps they would absorb some of their knowledge, wisdom, and dignity. Signed, Hassan Khalgoumi. Khalgoumi. No. Hassan Khalgoumi. We forget sometimes. We're running, now, Baruch Hashem, it's gotten quiet. The first Shabbos that we had that was quiet, we could sleep without being woken up in the middle of the night from running down to the air raid shelter or to your secure room, right? Whatever you have, without being woken up. You didn't have to wake up the children, the women. And there's a problem because everybody, we keep on talking about betochen. Baruch Hashem, everybody's talking about B'tochen. There's Shirim on B'tochen. There are articles on B'tochen. Everybody's doing B'tochen. And you feel guilty when you don't have B'tochen. And when don't you have B'tochen? All of a sudden you hear the air raid siren and your heart starts fluttering. I know my wife, she felt guilty. Why am I afraid? I'm not supposed to be afraid. I've been working on B'tochen. And then when the siren comes, all of a sudden, all your B'tochen goes out the window and you're in fear. What's going to be? Until you get the air all clear, In Parshas Shoftim, it says, when you go out to battle against your enemies and you see horses and chariots and a people more numerous than you, a large army. They have tanks, they have ammunition, they have weapons, they have bombs, they have missiles, they have explosives. And the Torah says, Lo sira mehem, don't be afraid. The Torah is telling us, don't be afraid of the enemy. For Hashem Elokecha Lo tira mehem.
Not to have fear. Don't be a coward. Don't be afraid to do the move.
No,
it's about inside the heart, or it's about the move.
So there's a Rabbeinu Yonah. He's a Rishon, and he learns Pshat that this is telling you don't be afraid and have betochen. This is the source. This pasuk is the source of betochen according to Rabbeinu Yonah in the Shari Tshuva. Don't be afraid, but I am afraid. The Rabbeinu Yonah says that we see from these psukim, don't be afraid. We're instructed if a person sees he's facing a tzara, and we learn that this not only in this case. You think it's only the soldiers? Don't be afraid. If we have an army of fraidy cats, scaredy cats, you don't have an army. Army has to be gibarim, right? People with fearless. That's what an army is. That's what lo sira mehem. No, these psukim are telling us in any tzara, in any major trouble that you go through, that approaches you, you should put Hashem's Yeshua in your heart and trust in Him. Strengthen your b'tachin in the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send you the Yeshua. Kodesh Baruch Hu will save you from the tzara. Don't be worried. Lo Sirat says, don't be afraid of any tzara. So why am I afraid? My wife asked me, why am I afraid?
Why not?
Huh? It says you're not allowed to be afraid. So I'm over in Avera if I'm afraid. So there's a Steipler. The Steipler, Chaim Kanievsky's father, the Steipler Rav. So he says, look, the Torah wasn't given to malachim, to angels. We're normal human beings. What's your first reaction? You hear an air raid, right? Your first reaction is, you're scared. Because, you're afraid of the missile. Well, depends also which area you're living in. If you live in Yerushalayim, Baruch Hashem, nothing fell in Yerushalayim except a little bit of shrapnel. Huh?
You saw a video of your son's house?
That's shrapnel. That was shrapnel. That wasn't a missile. I looked it up, and it happened. Nissen Kaplan talks about it. He had one by his yeshiva.
It happened right next to his house.
It's shrapnel. Shrapnel weighs 2 tons. Right? It's true. But it's not an intercontinental ballistic missile which explodes. The missiles that they were sending exploded, and they demolished.
They were going for Pesach. They knew.
No.
It was in Harnov.
What?
There was one in Harnov also.
Right, because next to it's his house. Right, so
One of the pieces of the
On the car.
Huh?
On the car.
On your car?
No, mine.
No, somebody else. Baruch Hashem. Okay. So okay, but that's not an intercontinental ballistic missile which can destroy 7 buildings. The blast is tremendous. It's got like 6,000 tons of explosives in it. I don't know what it's got in there.
No, it's 500 kilograms of explosive.
The speed Speed
So the-
has
Mach
a very,
7. It was Mach 7, 100% Mach 7. The one that did
Yeah.
Heather Tifa, reach on the scene, was Mach
the
7.
speed makes the explosion much bigger.
Yes,
It-
it's fine.
it creates energy.
And right. So anyway, but in Petach Tikva and outside of Bnei Brak and Bat Yam and what was it, Renana, the Weizmann Institute and Beer Sheva. So Rehovot, yeah, all these places. I mean, it's scary if you see that that's what they're aiming at, and you hear the air raid siren. It's scary. So the Stipler says that's normal. First, you have to realize it's normal. Don't feel guilty. The Torah wasn't given to angels. By nature, you have feelings, and you have a natural impulse, and a person feels fear when these things happen. You hear a siren, and you're running to the bomb shelter. Now, a lot of damage, a lot of injuries occurred from people who panicked and they slipped and tripped when they were running to the bomb shelter, or they ran into a wall, or whatever. They damaged themselves when they, by running, because you're running with fear. Don't just go to the bomb shelter.
Running with their phones at the hand.
Running with their phone.
So that lady bumped into the pole. She's running with her phone, she bumped into a pole.
Most people are worried and afraid what's going to be. What does it mean by lo sira mehem? Lo sira mehem is not referring to that fear. That's natural. But to harp on it, concentrate on it, and let it overcome you, you have to work on it. You have to have your first impulse, and then you grab yourself, and right, you're afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And work on it so that it becomes part of you that you really aren't afraid. A person can work on himself to overcome his natural impulses, and therefore the prohibition of lo sira mehem is only the natural impulse, is about what comes afterwards. If you bring it on yourself and you don't work on it, say, I'm not going to be afraid because I know Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to protect me. Why are you afraid? You're worried about what's going to happen, But a person who lives with B'tachin, a person who lives with a Kadosh Baruch Hu and believes that Hashem is protecting him, there's nothing to be worried about. He's got Hashem on his side. He's guaranteed to be protected. There's a pasuk in Mishlei. It's a very important pasuk. It says, "Cherdas adam yitain moikesh." The fear of a person makes a mine, a mokeh. How do you translate mokesh? It's a mine. It's a trap. It's hidden bomb. It's that's a mokesh. Boteach b'Hashem Yesuga, but a person has betachin, he's lifted up from all of this. So the Ibn Ezra says, a person who is mafached and he doesn't have put betachin into his heart, so whatever he's afraid of is going to happen. So by being afraid, you're making it happen. You have to. The best eitzah is work on yourself not to be afraid, and then the betachin lifts you up above the tzorah, and it won't afflict you, won't affect you. Person has to feel, what would be the best bomb? If a Kodesh Baruch Hu could create a bomb shelter, you're in they call it an iron dome, a real iron dome. A real iron dome that nothing, that's what betachin is. It's an iron dome that's a bomb shelter. It's guaranteed to protect you from anything that hits it. Right? Even a direct hit from a ballistic missile, nothing will happen. So a person who's sitting in such a shelter, he's not going to be afraid. He knows he's protected. He's got his the iron dome around him. So a person who lives with a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that's what you have to do. You have to live with a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and you know that you are protected. That's
the real. I'm asking. That's a real bitachon that I'm sure I'm going to be protected,
Isn't it
or
lower?
the bitachon.
Yeah, it's like it's a
The
lower level.
bitachon. I thought the bitachon is that no matter what happens to me, I know it comes from Hashem, and Hashem knows what's good for me, and Hashem knows.
That's a
what
famous
He's doing.
machlokes. That's a famous
I'm not
machlokes.
scared. For sure, nothing's going to happen to me. Maybe something will happen to me, but still, I'm not scared because.
So according to the Gra, there are levels of betachin, and that is a level of betachin. It is a level of betachin This is Rashi brings that down. There's a lot of Rishonim bring that pshat down. But the Gra and the Ramban learn if I really have betachin, real betachin, nothing's bad is going to happen to me. It's a Gemara in Brachas about Hillel Zaken. I mentioned this several times already. Hillel Zaken, he was coming into the city. He heard shrieking and crying. He says, Muftachani, I'm sure that this is not from my house. How could he be sure it's not from his house? Right? So the Grua on that Gemara, there's a Perush Grua on a Gadatis, and he says because he had such betachin, he was sure nothing bad was going to happen to him. So this can't be from my house.
Who said it's bad?
A shriek? Come on, whatever we considered bad. I know ultimately every bad thing is really ultimately for the good, but he's talking about what we feel is bad in our eyes. That kind of calamity is not going to happen to me if I really have betachin. This is the famous Shita of the Gra, and it's based on the Ramban. And if you really have betachin, so here let me continue.
So you don't really have to go down to the Baal Shelter, maybe.
That was the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav was on that madrega of there's a Maisa with the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav was on the madrega. He worked on himself. He was on the madrega of the Gra. He had tremendous betachin. He was in Yerushalayim during the Jordanians were bombarding, were bombing Yerushalayim. So bombs were falling in Yerushalayim, and he was on the top floor, and his whole family ran down to the shelter in the basement, and they said, Tati, come downstairs. He says, no, I'm just as safe here as I would be downstairs. Finally, they convinced him to go downstairs into the bomb shelter. And as he got into the bomb shelter, a pagaz, a mortar, flew into the window and hit the bed and burned and singed the pillow.
They said we told you.
All this kid said, we told you. He says, if I would have been there, it wouldn't have happened. It's only because I left. Now I want to know who's going to pay for the pillow. It's famous mice they bring that from the Brisker Rav. We're not on that madrega. So we have to go to the bomb shelter. Listen, I wasn't here in 67, but I heard from people who were here in 67 that when the yeshiva Torah Or was in Diskin, the Diskin orphanage in Givat Shaul, so it's right across the valley from Nabi Samuel, and the Jordanians had an encampment, a military encampment, and with mortars and whatever artillery they had, facing Yerushalayim in Nabi Samuel. So they were shooting their artillery into Givat Shaul. I remember Rosenberg. Remember Reuven Rosenberg? So he told me when he was sitting shiva for his brother. He says at that time a mortar, whatever it is, a piece of artillery, went in because he's right on the valley. It went in the back window, the window facing the right through his living room and out the front door. He missed his house. This is Reuven Rosenberg. Remember the printer? From across the street in Panamir's 3. Panamir's 3. That's what he told me. So in Diskin, I wrote this in my sefer, but I heard this from people who were here in '67 that so when they had the sirens that they were bombarding, so the yeshiva went down to the bomb shelter to the basement of Diskin orphanage, and at that time Rav Scheinberg, he because it was so dangerous for the Bachram, he didn't want to leave the Bachram, so he stayed the whole time with the Bachram.
They're not down Lifta already, like at the very bottom of the electoral?
They're not. They're on the top of the hill, overlooking Lifta. Overlooking Lifta.
Yeah, the very entrance, yeah.
Then you have the valley. You have Lifta, and at the other,
building of your
and they were getting shot from Nabi Samuel, right? So Rav Scheinberg refused to leave the Beis Medrash. He sat there in the Beis Medrash. Him and Rav Voltusky, his son-in-law Rav Voltusky, they sat there. I heard this from somebody who was in Diskin. Yeah, and they stayed there until a bomb landed nearby and the whole building shook. Right? So then Rav Scheinberg said to his son-in-law, "I think it's time we go downstairs." So he went downstairs to the bomb shelter, but he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave the base measures. Base measures protects, and nothing happened to him. I was here during the Scud War, when everybody was boarding up their windows, worried about chemical the bombings and chemical warfare, and everyone was wearing gas masks. And Rav Scheinberg, he sat on his merpeset like nothing happened. They had begged him, "Please, Rebbe, go inside at least. We're gonna board up the windows. You're not boarding up any windows. The windows are fine. Don't change the windows." He left his guy. He had windows. My mom is facing Nabi Samuel.
Is there anything to the schut of Eretz Israel, Dafka, or just Bisaf?
He said the schus of Limud Torah. That's what he said. Where you live in a neighborhood of Talmidei Chachamim, don't worry. That was Rav Chaim Kanievsky's Havtocha to Bnei Brak.
They got.
It was on the border. It was on the border. It was on the border. They just missed. They just missed.
Also, the question is also how many years is going to be forward.
Okay, but
Today's not very
Today is not.
I- we'll have a private conversation about everybody, right? What to do. Definitely, if you're scared, you have to go downstairs. Then that shows you don't have enough betochen. Rav Scheinberg sat there. What happened?
The street in Bnei Brak, it wasn't Bnei Brak, it was Kid Herzog. That street is Machalel Shabbos.
Oh,
What's going to happen when someone's going to give it?
yeah. Okay,
What about you and having me club? Is that the tough one?
we'll discuss private questions separately. What? Can you have betochen if you don't have a miklaf? I can't answer you on that. Everybody, it depends on your level of betochen. And
Fear of your wife. You don't have any bitachon.
Your wife.
okay, these are private questions. I'm not going to have it. Okay, so this is the Stipler. So the Stipler says everybody has to ask his private questions. I know I'm going to get it if I say anything wrong, because all the Rabbanim Pasuk, you have to run down to the bomb shelter, and that is you have to when you're talking to a rabbim. That's the psak halacha you have to give.
Run down? I thought it was the dafka not run down.
I did not to run. I mean, you can walk quickly.
But really, for all your Arab audience, they have to run down to the class, right?
Taking the elevator down to the mikvah during a siren is the tough.
So this is the Stipler. This is the Stipler. This is the Stipler. So the Stipler says it's natural to have fear. Don't feel bad. A lot of people feel bad. I feel I've been working so much on B'tachon. I feel bad. It's not working. Look how scared I am. That's natural. You cannot conquer a natural impulse. You can't. It's very hard to conquer a natural impulse. Rav Scheinberg did it. He was not scared at all.
One second.
That's a different question. What is that?
Wearing a mask during the corona.
Let's not go into that. Let's not go into that. Okay. How much is shtadlis? What are you allowed to do? What you're not allowed to do? And let's not talk about corona. There was a lot of misinformation then, and I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Rabbi, if we want 10,000 hits on this thing, we just have to call it, the rabbi says not to,
This imam, so Aisha Torah put this on their site, and then they have a little.
You still alive?
They have a little box on the bottom. The imam denies that he ever wrote this. So I looked it up. There's a fatwa against him. He's gotten 1,000 death threats. So therefore, he announced that he didn't write
There's
this.
a video, no?
I saw an Israeli journalist, Tzvi Chizkeli, interviewed him.
But he didn't say this.
No, but he interviewed him.
Yeah. He's a very moderate and level-headed Arab. It's very unusual. Okay,
But it's not
so
like-
so this
He's
is.
Arab, he's a Muslim, I'm not sure he's Arab.
I don't know. He's an imam. Yinimam.
שלו, הוא לא...
Don't know. Anyway, so this is the Stipler Rav. That it's natural to have fear. Then we have the Brisker Rav. The Brisker has a new take on this. He brings a pasuk. It says, "Yom ira ani elecha evtoch." You have to have fear. If you don't have fear, it's not betochen. It's the ostrich syndrome. A person who walks around, I'm not afraid, nothing to worry about. It's okay. He just makes light of it. That's not betochen. That's an ostrich syndrome. He's putting his head in the sand, not look. You have to look around and say, it's dangerous, but I'm not afraid. So there has to be fear. Yom ira, if it's a dangerous situation, then I will elecha evtoch. When the situation looks hopeless, and I know it's a problem. If you're at ease because you think there's no danger,
It's not a stira. It's not a different.
It's not the same word as Yira.
It's a stira. What we said before. It's a natural
Right.
thing to be scared.
another way, a different way of looking at it. No, he's saying if you're there are people who are oblivious. They have a nature. They're oblivious to. They're unemotional about it. Yeah, I'm not afraid. Right? So that type of person, I've got betachin. That's not called betachin. That's foolishness. That's foolishness. He's right. He brings that person goes to a doctor, and the doctor says, "It's very, very serious. Very, very serious. Most people in your situation have 2 months to live." Right? So he goes home, and he's petrified, and he goes to people. What does the doctor know? It's okay. Don't listen to him. He's just exaggerating. He's trying to get you scared. Right? And okay, so I have nothing to worry about. That's a fool. That's a fool. If the doctor says such a prognosis, a diagnosis like that, it's dangerous. It's very, very bad. But if you have betachin, so then Shimshon Pinkus, so he says, what do we say every morning? Boire refuos. What's boire refuos? That a refuah, a medicine or a technique, a medical technique, a medical procedure, a treatment, that all of a sudden they discover a new treatment. It's boire refuos. It wasn't there before. It's all of a sudden came out of nowhere, and then they give it to him, and it works. I know somebody, he had a prognosis, 90% of the people with this type of machla, they don't last 6 months, and this person's still going strong. And according to the MRIs, it's gone. Huh?
How many months after?
Now it's 7 months.
Oh.
Now it's 7 months, but it's supposed to be a very aggressive cancer. And they got rid of it, and he's on heavy chemo. It's very difficult. It's wiping him out. But the prognosis was not true. And Be'ez Hashem, he'll be over the chemo, and he'll get back to a normal life, and he'll be fine. There are many people they pull themselves out of it. Why? Because boire refuos. So what do you have to do? You have to have betachin in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Doesn't matter what the doctors say. Now it means what the doctors say is it's dangerous. And I have to do something about it. And he had to do something about it. You have to find the best. In such a situation, normally I would say take a normal doctor. You just have a bad cold, you have pneumonia, or you have bronchitis. You don't have to go to a specialist. But something of this nature, you have to go to the tops. You find the best. And then, once you find the best, why the best? So they say because a doctor, there's a malach. There's a malach Raphael. And a doctor who has a high success rate, that means that the Malach Raphael he's walking around with the Malach Raphael. So you want to be with a person who's got the Malach Raphael next to him.
Even though he goes to Gehenna. Tov Shebarov to Gehenna.
That's a different thing. That's different pshat. It's not talking about. In the old days they didn't have modern medicine with all the limud and the scholarship and the tests and the way they do. When they have a new medicine, they test it out, and they test it on people, and some people die because it's a new medicine. So the doctor becomes good because he tested all his medicines. Now he knows what works and what doesn't work because he buried a lot of his mistakes in you know. So that's Toiv Rofin Gehenim. But it's a different world today, medical. And you have some people are very, very skilled and some people are not very skilled. And though some people have siyata d'shmaya and some people don't have siyata d'shmaya. So in a very dangerous situation. So if it's dangerous, then you know, Adarabba, in a dangerous situation, it gives you an impetus to have more betachin. If you don't think there's anything wrong, your betachin is fake. It's because you're in a bad situation, you're driving along the highway, and you get a flat tire in a bad neighborhood. And the neighbors, they spot you, and they start coming out to investigate, and they surround the car, and they're looking at you. I have betachin. I have betachin. You better have betachin. You better have betachin. In such a situation, if you really are able to get your betachin up to the right madrega, at that moment a police car is going to pass by. At that moment a police car is going to pass by and be okay.
We'll smash his car and you get to escape. Not anymore.
There's a famous, we say every Shabbos, and Moitzi Shabbos, Yoshe B'Seiser Elyon, B'Tzel Shakai Yisleinain, that famous capital. This is called the Shir Shepagoyim. It's a good idea to memorize this capital Tehillim. It is a skula against danger. It's a protection. Huh? That's not in here. Oh, but there are many scholars. There are many scholars. Okay, but this is known to be a skula, right? Right now, there's a very interesting line in here. There's a very Yipol mitzidcha elef. 1,000 fall on your side. That's the left side. Mitzidcha elef. Urvava miminecha. On your right side, 10,000 fall. Eilecha lo yigosh. But they're not going to touch you. Now, who's on your right side? 10,000 on my right side. Who are the people on my right side? You always put on the right. The right side are the good people. The left side are the people who are, not so great. But on the right side, the people on the right are the good people, the Talmidei Chachamim, the Tzaddikim. And 10,000 of them are falling. And you can have betachin, right? Rakbein eilecha lo yigosh. Rak beinecha sabit, you'll watch it. V'shilumas v'shoyim tira, and you'll see all the people falling by the way. How can that be? How can that be? So this is something we have to learn. You have to develop a personal relationship with the Ribono Shel Olam. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. Don't be afraid. The best people are falling. Eilecha lo yigosh. This is Rav Shimshon Pinkus. He says he was sitting in shul one morning, and you say this in Psukei de Zimra, right? And the person next to him was saying with his slavis, right? And he says, Yipol mitzidcha elef. And he's pointing at him, He's pointing at Rav Shimshon Pinkus, right? Yipol mitzidcha elef revava minecha. Eilecha lo yigosh. He's pointing at him, and then Rav Shimshon wanted to do it back to him. He held himself back from doing that. So what's pshat? What's pshat? So he said a cute thing. He said a cute thing. There's he was once a boy. He was a boy in New York. He was a boy in New York, and when he was growing up, there was a enlistment program. The United States Army had an enlistment advertising trying to get people to enlist. I think then was the Korean War or whatever. I'm not sure what war it was when he was growing up. So they wanted people to enlist in the army. So they had signs all over the place. If you remember that sign.
Trouble Sam.
No. It's Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam, right? Uncle Sam, right? That's, I want, this Uncle Sam. That's what was going on in right? So he's walking down the street and there's a finger pointing at him. You! Right? And then he turns the corner and there's another finger pointing at him. You! And he goes to the other corner and there's a finger pointing at him. You! So he says, that's a lecha lo yigosh. You have a relationship with the Ribbono Shel Olam. You give yourself a credit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you. I want you. That's what it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu pointing at you. Eilecha lo yigosh. Don't be afraid. That's right. You say in the morning, Elokai, Neshama Shenasatabi. What's Elokai? My God. Elokai, not Elokah. Elokai. My God. You have to have a relationship with the Ribbono Shel Olam. It's a private relationship with the Ribbono Shel Olam. You speak to the Ribbono Shel Olam. It says, and a person who has developed B'tachin is, I have a personal relationship with the Ribbono Shel Olam, and a person who has real B'tachin, that's the Gruel. A person who really has B'tachin, U'B'teach B'Hashem, Yisugav. That's the pasuk in Mishlei. Uboteach b'Hashem Yisugav. He's lifted up. I'll give you a little explanation of this. This week's parsha. This week's parsha. Parshas Chukas. We know that this is the parsha of Moshe Rabbeinu. This is the parsha of Moshe Rabbeinu with hitting the rock, and because of that, he didn't get into Eretz Yisrael. And the Meforshim, they are very confused. It doesn't say clear, Bavor lo amantem bi, since you didn't believe in me. Bavor lo amantem bi, you didn't believe in me. What exactly happened here? What exactly was the chet? So the Or HaChaim HaKadosh brings down 11 perushim of what the chet was. 11 perushim. He brings down 10 perushim. He doesn't like any of them. He has questions on each one of them, and then he gives the 11th. So there are 11 perushim. What exactly was the chet of Moshe v'Aaron? Now, one of the perushim is the Sefer Yikarim. The Sefer Yikarim, Rav Albo. The Sefer Yikarim, he was a Rishon. And he's got a very, very interesting perush. What was Moshe Rabbeinu's chet? Moshe Rabbeinu already knew. He had already been told at Marah to take your staff and hit the rock twice and water will come out. He hit the rock twice and water came out. Now, this is not just a little trickle of water. This is enough water to feed, to give enough water to drink and take baths for 3 million people. It came gushing out. That's a lot of water out of one rock. I don't know how big the rock was, but a lot of water came out of there. But he hit the rock and water came out and they had water. And this is the Be'er Shel Miriam that accompanied them for 40 years. This rock traveled around with them. Right? So he already knew that water can come out of a rock. So he was maluvin in miracles. He was told, Dibartem el hasela. He wasn't told hit the rock. He says, take your staff and talk to the rock. Now he made a mistake. He thought take your staff and hit the rock. So how he made that mistake, I'm not going to go into it. The Meforshim go into it. But he made a toyus. And what was the toyus? So Rav Yosef Albo, the Sefer Yikarim, has a very, very interesting shot. When was he told to take the staff in Marah? Marah was before Matan Torah. They weren't on the Madrega of Klal Yisrael yet. Now, after Matan Torah, Klal Yisrael had been lifted up to a higher Madrega. Klal Yisrael controls the nature of the world. The nature of the world is controlled by what Klal Yisrael does. You have to learn the Nefesh HaChaim. What we do, how we react with the Rebbeinu Shalom, that controls how things that happen in the world. When Klal Yisrael are good, the whole world hums. Everything goes. When Klal Yisrael is not good, the whole world plotzes. So what Klal Yisrael does controls the world, and a tzaddik can dictate to the world what to do. And Moshe Rabbeinu had just seen that by the Maisa with Korach, because Baruch didn't tell him how Korach was going to die. He begged he dictated, so to speak, to the Rebbeinu Shalom, if a Kodesh Baruch is going to die normally, then Kodesh Baruch didn't send me. The earth has to open up its mouth and swallow him up alive, and then you'll know that Kodesh Baruch Hu sent me and not him, and that's exactly what happened. The earth opened up its mouth, a crevice opened up under each one of the, under Korach, and under Korach's tent, and Dosan, and Aviram, and all of them went down to Gehenna alive. So, how does an earthquake, how can you dictate an earthquake? And that should happen specifically underneath his feet. That's a tremendous miracle. Moshe Rabbeinu already saw that he had control over nature. So the Rav Yosef Albo asked the question, who is bigger, Moshe Rabbeinu or Hanina ben Dosa? Huh? Who is bigger? Wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu bigger than Hanina ben Dosa? Now Hanina ben Dosa, we know the tremendous miracles that he did. The witch tried to do witchcraft from him. Says, don't worry, I'm not worried about it. Whatever she does, she can't do anything to me. There was a snake, there was a serpent, a rattlesnake or a venomous serpent that was making there was a village, and they were petrified of it, and it was people couldn't pass by because it was too dangerous because of this venomous snake. So they called in Hanina ben Dosa. Says, don't worry about it. He put his heel on the opening of the snake's den. The snake came out and bit him, and the snake died. So he took the snake, put it around his neck, went to the Beis Medrash, says, I'll show you. It's not the snake that kills, it's the chet that kills. Right? The famous mice I told you about his daughter, she lit vinegar, and what's going to be for Shabbos? Who said vinegar should light? He said, who said shemen should light, that oil lights for Shabbos? Vinegar can light. And the vinegar lit until they made Havdalah on it. Vinegar doesn't burn. But because Hanina ben Dosa said vinegar burns, it burned. Who is bigger? Who understands that there's no such thing as nature? Who controls nature? The Rebbeinu Shalom controls nature. Kodesh Baruch Hu told shemen that oil burns. Kodesh Baruch Hu says vinegar burns. What's the difference? Moshe Rabbeinu should have immediately, when the people complained that they're thirsty, he knew that a rock can give water. He already did it. But now he's on a higher madrega. Go over to the rock and give it a mussar shmooze. Rock, give water. Dictate, tell the rock to give water. Why did he do that? Why didn't he do that? He ran to the Rebbeinu Shalom. What do I do? What do I do? L'man lo amantim li, lahakti sheni. You know what a Kiddush Hashem that would have been? Says Rav Yosef Albo, if Moshe Rabbeinu would have done that and showed Klal Yisrael, the madrega that Klal Yisrael is on, that they can dictate to nature what to do, they're above nature, that would have been a Kiddush Hashem. Everybody would have done tshuva. They were doing tshuva already, but they would have done such a level of tshuva, they would have gotten into Eretz Yisrael right away, without any casualties, with Moshe and Aaron, and the Beis HaMikdash would not have been destroyed because they were on a madrega of dictating to nature how to act, to dictate to nature. They were in control of nature, but he didn't do that. And he caused the Chil Hashem. He says, He's got the stick. The stick, it's a magic stick. The magic stick that, not the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's because he's got a magic stick that when you hit the magic, remember what happened to Mara? And you hit the stick, there's something magic about the stick, and the stick didn't, it's not a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It lessened their emunah. Lama, right? Bavur, shelo hamantim bi, you didn't create emunah, lahakdisheni, that would, you didn't create the Kiddush Hashem, it created the Chil Hashem, and therefore, this is the madrega that Klal Yisrael is supposed to be on. And this is what we have to realize. This is the greatness of Klal Yisrael. And yes, there are tzaddikim who are on that madrega. The Vilna Gaon was on that madrega. Big tzaddikim were on that madrega. And we have to realize the greatness of Klal Yisrael. And like this imam said, and like Mark Twain said, Kodesh Baruch Hu loves us. He's not going to let us down. They could try to destroy us. Now, what's going to happen in the meanwhile? I don't know. How many casualties we're going to have? We had casualties. But they will never destroy Klal Yisrael. We're here forever. We're talking about Parshas Chukas. So there's a Yalkut Shimoni. Rav Asher Weiss brought down a Yalkut Shimoni about Parshas Chukas. Parshas Chukas, the Parah Aduma. So there's a very, very interesting Yalkut Shimoni on the Parah Aduma. So we learn from the Parah Aduma. It's a chukah. Chukim chukakti. I created a chayk. Gezerah gezarti. I created gezeris. Ein lecha reshus lahara achreim. You can't understand it. Parah Aduma is something, even Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all people, he couldn't understand the Parah Aduma. There were things about it, it's beyond him. It's not a paradigm, but not a mushal. But it's a symbol of types of things that there's a level of things in the world we can't understand. Don't try to understand them. It says in the Yalkut Shimon of Yichu Elecha Para, Elu Yisrael, Shenemar. So the Parah Aduma is a mushal for Klal Yisrael. And it's a Duma, Elu Yisrael, Shenemar, Adama, Etzem Mipnimim. It's Tamima, Elu Yisrael. These are called Yonasi Tamasi. Asher Ein Ba Mum, Elu Yisrael. Klach Yofe Rayosi, Mum Ein Bach. So Parah Aduma is a mushal for Klal Yisrael. Shalo Aleha Oil. It's a daira of Yirmiyah. They lo aleha oil. That people, the time of Yirmiyah, he was the time of the Churban of Bayis Rishon, right? And they weren't makabel on themselves the Kodesh Baruch Hu. People did not makabel his Yirmiyah's musar. When the Satam Oso Elezer Kohen, you got to give it over to Elezer Kohen. That's Yirmiyah. You gave it over to the Kahanim. They didn't accept it. Right? And that's Golis. Because of this, the Klal Yisrael went into Golis bubble. The Shachar Solofonov. So Tzidkiyahu, his children were shechted in front of him, and they blinded him, they poked his eyes out. V'sarif es hapara le'enov, v'sarif es Beis Hashem, they burnt up the Beis HaMikdash. V'es oira, v'es besora, v'es doma, pirsa, kitzer. Osaf, es Ephor, that's the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to be massive. He's going to make a nest, and it's going to be Oisef, all Nidchei Yisrael. We're going to come back. He's going to do a nest, and we're going to come back. Ish, Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to bring us back. Hashem Ish Mulchama. Tahar, Zeh Kodesh Baruch Hu. Torei Nayim, Ephor Hapora. He's going to bring back the Golios. V'niach al Michutz Lamachane. Into a Makom Tahar, going to bring us back to Yerushalayim and make it Tahar. That he's going to bring all of Klal Yisrael back from their Tumah, and is going to be Matayr them. La'asad Lava, Kodesh Baruch Hu, is going to be Matayr Klal Yisrael. This is the story. This is what the Yalkut Shimoni is saying, that Parah Aduma is the story of Klal Yisrael. That we didn't listen to him, we went into Golis, but we have a promise, a havtocha, that Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to bring us back. It's our tragedy and our salvation. Our salvation. This is a story of Churban and Geula. And how do we look at the Churban and Geula? This is a question that all of us have. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Gezerah gezarte, chukim chukakti. It's a choik. It's asur lahayr achreim. You can't understand it. Don't even try to understand it. We are the chosen people. Bochar banu mikol ha'amim. We say in Bochar banu mikol ha'amim, Birchas HaTorah and Birchas HaYontif. Bochar banu mikol ha'amim. We're beloved people. Kadosh Baruch Hu loves us more than all of us. Out of all the nations, Kadosh Baruch Hu loves us more than anybody else. So why is our history so painful? Why do we have such a tragic story? Thousands of years before we were born, the history of Klal Yisrael, only 830 years did we live with a Beis HaMikdash. 830 years out of thousands of years we had Shekhinah. Most of our days were in Gullus, tragedy, sorrow, right? Now, it's true. It's true. We had a victory. It was everybody's in seventh heaven from what happened, last week with Iran. Some people are saying Nishmas. The other shuls made a Kiddush, right? People are praising Kadosh Baruch Hu for the victory over Iran. But let's not forget, people are still dying, soldiers are dying. This month, 20 soldiers, 20 young kids have lost their lives. The families will never be the same. So on one hand we see Siyata D'Shmaya, we see miracles, on the other hand we see terrible tragedy. What's our story? Kadosh Baruch Hu loves us more than anyone else. Chavivin Yisrael shenikru banim l'makom. We're chavivin. Chibi Yisera nodas lahem shenikru banim l'makom. So why do we suffer? There's a Sefer Iyuv. There's a Sefer Iyuv. And Iyuv, in a nutshell, a storm came. His house and family were destroyed. All his possessions were destroyed. Marauders. He was afflicted with a terrible machla. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? His four friends came and they had a very, very long philosophical discussion. And they couldn't placate him. Whatever they said, they couldn't placate him. He didn't accept it. He was in despair. He didn't understand what's going on. Until it started with a storm, with a Sarah, and it ended with a storm. A storm came and a Kodesh Baruch Hu appeared to him out of a storm. And a Kodesh Baruch Hu asked Iyuv, where were you when I created the world? Were you there? Were you there when I set the foundations of the world? Do you know where I laid the cornerstone of the world? Do you understand all the workings of the world, of creation? You weren't there. Do you understand what your root of your neshama is? No, you don't understand. How do you fit into the whole scene of 6,000 years of creation? You don't understand. Where were you? The answer is, we don't know. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows. There's famous Gemara in Brachos, in Pesachim. The Gemara in Pesachim says, on good tidings we say, Hatova Meitiv, and on bad tidings we say, Dayana Emes. La'asad Lavai, on everything we're going to say, Hatova Meitiv. So the Slach brings a Perish from the Maggid of Risha. So he says, Ephraim Risha, he says, what does it mean that when we get Asad Lavo, everything's going to be, there's not going to be anything bad. Here, things are good, things are bad. Asad Lavo is going to be Gan Eden. It's going to be all bliss. So what's there bad to make a bracha? The dynamics turns into a Tova Meitiv. So he answers, now things look bad. Things look tragic. Things hurt. We cry. We have sorrow. We have good times and we have bad times. La'asad lavoi. Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to turn us around and says, look back. And we're going to look back and we're going to see and we're going to make a tova meitiv on everything that happened to us. All of history, all of our personal history, all of Jewish history, we're going to look back and everything's going to be hatov v'hameitiv. We have to realize that it's a chok, we can't understand it. You're not allowed to be mahar after Kodesh Baruch Hu's reasoning. It's all for the good. Call the Ovid Rachmana Latav Ovid. And therefore, we daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he's right. He should give Mavasa Lano B'Sayris Toivos. He should be zeicher to see the car of the car of the Yeshua, right? The Mashiach should come b'mheir b'yameinu, Mashiach Sidkenu, and Be'ez Hashem we see the rebirth of the Jewish people.